our National Weather Service office in White Lake, right around the corner, is telling us today we have an ice storm warning. And they put that in effect when we can get up to a half an inch of ice on surfaces. Joining us now is our fire chief and emergency coordinator for West Bloomfield, Chief Greg Flynn. Thank you, sir, for being here on short notice. I hope
Hey,
it's
good
not.
morning.
I hope it's not a busy day, but you know we in your business prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Dave, we have a resilient community that listens to their social media, listening to the news, prepared, and I think it's the regular messaging of preparedness and being ready to go when severe weather strikes that really positions us well for the weather that we see here in Michigan.
Well, and I always like to remind people the amazing resources that are available. And we put them on a page today. I know they're on your site, and the police do a great job through all the social media. But I put a page up, civiccentertv.com/ice. And one of the really good things that's there are Nixle alerts that let people know when there are problems in the community, and they get reported directly to them from the authorities. And that is a really handy resource.
Well, we want to get real-time information, intelligence out to our residents. That's that kind of transparency, that kind of understanding. Knowledge is power, and that's going to be part of the concern. Speaking of power, you know, when we get this ice that comes in and weighs on those power lines or weighs on on trees heavily and causes a compromise or pressure on those power lines. Losing power this time of year can be very challenging with cold, severe weather coming in.
Well, and I checked in with the DTE folks, and they've updated all of their resources. On the ICE page, you'll also find links to their new outage map, a new alerting system that they have. And I think you really like it, and an instructional video and a lot of other tips as well. I've always found their maps to be very, very helpful, so you know what's going on. But you're right, Chief Lynn, having an electricity outage this time of year can really mess things up. And as I think back on the worst weather events we've had here in West Bloomfield over the decades, ice is usually causing more problems than most.
Well, you're right. It's water is our issue. While it's one of our greatest resources, it can really be an issue with us, especially in its different forms that it takes here in Michigan. And whether it's falling in a nice gentle blanket or coming down as rain in large quantities or coming down and freezing as it hits the ground. So, you know, Dave, when we talk about that power, though, we know that many of our residents may have alternative redundancy power within their homes, and they may do that via a gas-powered generator. It's very important that we remember that running those gas-powered generators does produce carbon monoxide, and understanding how to properly vent, meaning making sure there's adequate space around your generator so that exhaust, that silent, deadly gas isn't pumping into your living space. It's very, very important. You know, often people, unfortunately, Dave, are concerned about the theft of or someone stealing their generator, so they may put it in their garage and then just crack that garage door. The problem is that air is pushing in, it's pressurizing the garage and not allowing the exhaust out, but rather pushing it through that entry door into the home, and that gas is seeping in through cracks and can start to poison the inside atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is one of those big household generators that some of us have, but we're not all fortunate to have. I've got a couple of those 1,000-watt Honda generators, and they work really good. Put them in the backyard away from the house, keep some extension cords, and just keep the essential things running in my home. And I assume that is a safe approach, but I hear about people putting these things in their garage, and that's just a terrible idea.
Those are terrible, and often we'll find that some people even cook in their garage based on some of their the foods that they have without a vent and proper screening around those that would normally meet building code within a kitchen, and so those can make us vulnerable. But specifically to your points today, great idea putting those generators in the backyard. Maybe have your yard fenced in, and there's some protection there, or chain it to a tree. But plan ahead, I think, is the big takeaway here. If we know this is coming, and we know West Bloomfield is beautiful with many trees, and you know from your own neighborhood whether or not you frequently experience power outages, and if you experience them from ice storms, likely to be an occurrence today.
Couple other things, we've seen some gas stations add generators, but not all of them have them. So if you got a couple of minutes, we don't want to, hoard gas this morning, but it might not be a bad idea to top off your car, or if you do have generators, make sure you got some gasoline. And then I found that Meyer actually has these little dry ice packets that you can get too. And just why not have one if you've got time? If you lose power for several days, then you start thinking about losing all of your food, and it's an inconvenience. But Greg, those are all the inconveniences. These things can also turn into events where your lifesavers are out keeping people alive as well.
Well, those medical illness, the risk of fire, all of those things remain and exist, and even can have a higher risk, Dave, during severe weather events. So when we're contemplating, should I go and bring my trash cans in because the sleet has already started coming down and someone wants to get those out of the street, which we understand why, but they're at a higher risk for a slip and fall on that iced over surface. We know that fractures to hips and femurs can be detrimental and lethal to some at-risk populations within our community. So it all connects, and I think that's why having an informative conversation like we're having right now, and bringing to light some of these things, so that if I am out bringing in my trash cans, and I know that my neighbor who may have some challenges or be at risk,
Sure.
That I can do that for them and play my part in community risk reduction and helping my neighbor out, because that's one of the great things about living here in the WB is neighbors helping neighbors.
You're a great neighbor and a great friend. Chief Greg Flynn joining us this morning for the West Bloomfield Fire Department. Hopefully we won't need to talk again today, but if we do, let's stay in touch. We'll have all of our resources on guard here. Travel not recommended for this afternoon, so do try to get the things done that you need to get done, and we'll keep an eye on the weather and continue to report it to you. Greg, thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Dick.